Hello, I am Jessica Weaver. I'm a wealth advisor, best-selling author of 2 books, and a financial blogger. And I'm thrilled to be here with you to build your retirement plan. This is my club members, the women in my retirement club, their favorite piece, their favorite curriculum, if you will. It's what makes what used to overwhelm them, stress them out, and even overstimulate them something that is doable. It makes sense, they can understand it. Then we start to put all the pieces together into a very holistic, comprehensive plan that they get and that they feel very secure with. So let's dive right in. As I said, I'm Jessica Weaver. I am tickled pink to be here. This is just a little bit about our community that we have built over the last 10 years. First up was Not My Father's Advisor. That's my blog that we started about 4 or 5 years ago as I started to see the huge disconnect between financial planning and women. The missing gap there. Really are a few gaps. But one of the biggest pieces, traditional financial planning doesn't take into account your lifestyle, your health, the cost of your health, your legacy planning beyond just the money. It doesn't take into account how we live our life day to day. It also has a big gap between what you do every day with your money and how your money is being invested. How you manage your money on a day-to-day basis, you touch money so much more than your investments ever will. And it has a huge impact on your plan, an even bigger impact than just investments. The other huge gap that I found is that you move too quickly and you're trying to do too much at once. And that's, like I said, when you get overwhelmed, overstimulated, disorganized, and then you just aren't as committed because it's just too hard. I get it. And that's why I started to write my best-selling book, Strong Woman, Stronger Assets, and Time to Refine. From there, we have our Strong Retirement Club. We now have my Money Empire program. And all this is wrapped up into our Pink Fix Productions. And actually, starting in 2021, all of this will be in one community to help women grow their wealth, grow their businesses and their career, and then also knowing retirement. What do we do there? How do we bring it all together for retirement? Where I've been. So what I'm going to share with you has been featured in Oprah Magazine, Entrepreneur, Forbes. I've spoken at Rutgers University. I've had book signings at Barnes & Noble, House & Livy, Lululemon, across other places all over the United States. So let's dive in because there's a lot of really good details here to get going. So first, let's get it all on the table. Okay, what are our retirement plan factors? We have income, expenses, taxes, inflation, assets, withdrawal rates, investment returns, required minimum distributions, and as you can see, all of a sudden this starts to feel a little overwhelming. But let's take a step back. I don't want this to be overwhelming. I want this to be doable to you, and it can be. So this is how I like to start to filter through all of these components and figuring out how do they all come together. Because I know you've been working so hard, you've been so busy working, saving money, paying bills, working, saving money, paying bills. There's not much time left for anything else. Now all of a sudden, retirement's on the horizon, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what else needs to be done? How do I bring all these pieces together? And that's the number one reason women join my Strong Retirement Club. And I'm going to give you an idea about our retirement assessment at the end of this. But all the women who come to me, we go through a retirement assessment so we know exactly where we need to focus the remaining years of their career so that they can have the retirement that they've dreamed of, so that they can have a comfortable retirement, feeling very secure in their money decisions. And what I found with this assessment is they can get themselves about halfway. Right? I have a new woman in the club, Kathy. She got herself about halfway. She did a great job working and saving money and stocking the money away, but there are a few gaps in her plan. She was getting very comfortable spending money, so her expenses were at an all-time high. She wasn't being very tax efficient. Okay. She wasn't taking into account market drops like we just experienced. She wasn't thinking about withdrawal rates in retirement, that she might take out too much money to cover her very high expenses. There were these different gaps, and she just wasn't optimizing the money coming into her life and making sure to fill in these gaps so that when retirement does come, she can retire on her own terms. She won't be stressed over layoffs. She won't be stressed over what happens with her health. And let me tell you, since we started working together, her jobs had layoffs. She just had a health care. She's on short-term disability right now. But because she got on top of these things, she got very proactive with her savings, lowering her expenses, doing all the different pieces of her plan, getting them all the components together. Those two huge things that used to stress her out didn't stress her out this time. That was huge for her. And that's exactly what we're going to go into today. Sound good? Let's go in. So this is the first step of how I sort through these things. What's working for you? We look at what's working for you, what's working against you. And we look at what's working for you. We look at how do we enhance and optimize on these things that are working for you. Just like I said, she was saving money. She just wasn't being very tax efficient with her savings. Now, and also fast forward to retirement when she's taking money out. What is working for you? Income. Obviously, income's always working for you. How do we optimize on that income coming into your world? How do we become very efficient with what we do with that money? So what are different sources of income in retirement? We have Social Security. Maybe you're lucky to have a pension, income gains from investments, part-time job, consulting, rental income, passive income. Maybe you own a business and you're going to sell it and get an income stream from it. Or maybe you are an owner of a business and you're going to work 10 hours a month, 10 hours a week, and you're going to get some passive income from it. Okay. Low expenses, those always work for us, a low withdrawal rate. This is what I've seen happen. Whenever you work, your expenses go up. Your income goes up, your expenses go up. Now here you are at the end of your working career and you probably are earning the most money you've ever earned. And what happens? Just like Kathy, you get very comfortable living on more money. So one of my systems, my cash flow security system, we make sure to keep our expenses in check. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy some extra money. We're all about enjoying our money. But it also makes sure that we stay in check so that when you do retire, your expenses aren't so high that you're going to blow through your money. We want to make sure we're on the same page with how much income we have coming in from all those sources and where our expenses are. When those aren't in sync, when they're out of balance, it causes a lot of pressure on you and on your plan. So again, when we have different incomes coming in, we want to be tax efficient with them. That's why we always have an accountant on our team. We want to take advantage of gains in our investments, our income from our investments, how to best use them, and also how to bank some of it for the times when we won't have gains, when the markets are sideways or declining. Okay. If you have part-time income coming in, how are we going to balance that with income from investments, from Social Security, from a pension? And then rental income too. How do you take account? I just have a client who their rental property isn't going to be rented out much this year because of COVID-19. So we had to balance that with where she was taking money from her investments and making sure we weren't putting too much pressure or strain on her investments at that time. And we're going to go into that. And obviously keeping our expenses in check, and we're going to go into different ways to do that as well. Keeping our withdrawal rate, the amount of money, that percentage of money we're taking from our accounts to live on. We don't want that to be too high. We want to keep that around 4 or 5%. Again, we're going to go into that as well. So let's keep going. How to optimize. I'm all about optimizing the opportunities out there for you. How do we optimize what's working for you? We add structure to your investments and accounts. Okay. So adding structure to your investments, knowing exactly where you're going to take money to live on in retirement. We want that to be a stable investment. We want it to be an income producing investment. We don't want it fluctuating crazy highs and crazy lows with the markets. Same thing as we're building wealth. We're adding structure to our cash flow. So every dollar that comes in, we're going to strip some of that money for retirement. We're going to strip some of that money to build wealth for today. We're going to strip some of that money for, let's say, 1-2 year goals. We start adding buckets as you accumulate wealth. And then in reverse, when you start taking money out, we're going to do the same way to be very tax efficient. Okay? Because think about it, $1 million in a 401k or an IRA in a retirement account really isn't worth $1 million unless it's a Roth, because you have to pay taxes on that money. And that's again why we have an accountant on hand to help us figure out when we pull and build our income streams, making sure we're being very efficient with our taxes and paying as little as possible with taxes. Okay? Building multiple income streams. Having more income streams coming in stabilizes you. It stabilizes your cash flow. It stabilizes your investments. Because what happens when all of your income's coming from one investment and that investment's going down? It's going to go down a lot faster as you pull money out, right? It's like opening up a bleeding wound even more. It's going to hurt a lot more. There's less money to recover if the markets go back up. So having multiple income streams will stabilize those times. It will also make you feel more secure, knowing I have income coming in from different sources. I'm not dependent on that one source of income. Giving each dollar in your savings more than one purpose. This is one of my favorite things. This is my multitask your money system. And what we do, we look at the different components. What's working for you, what's working against you. Let's look at bank account money. This is bank account money above and beyond the emergency fund. So I like to have, especially for retirees, about 1 year savings in a bank account. So we're talking about money above and beyond that. In a bank account, money is, two things are working against you. One, inflation. Your money's not keeping up with inflation, so you are slowly losing the purchasing power of your money. Two, any little bit of gain you do have, you pay taxes on. So two things working against you, right? Not keeping up with inflation, paying taxes on any little gain that you do have. So for some women who hoard money in the bank account, I do have several of them, hoard money in a bank account above and beyond that 1 year's of expenses. We've looked at different options, and one option that always comes to mind is this long-term care annuity. Not to get too specific, but just looking at the blueprint of it. The long-term care annuity, it grows at 2.5% to 3% each year. So it grows with inflation. It's keeping up with inflation at least. It helps manage market volatility because it's going up each year and it's not tied to the markets. So that's two things. Keeps up with inflation, not tied to, manages market volatility. The third thing is, if you needed long-term care, if you can't perform 2 or more of the activities of daily living, it will triple your money. And that gain is tax-free. Tax efficient, keeps up with inflation, manages market volatility, helps pay for long-term care. If you don't need long-term care, you can annuitize it, basically make it a pension. So it helps with longevity risk too. That's 5 things working for you versus 2 things working against you. That's multitasking your money. Isn't that exciting? A very simple example of this again is you look at term life insurance versus permanent life insurance. So the only thing that you need to do with your money is protect against the possibility of you dying early. Term insurance is great, very affordable, very cheap. But if you want to do more than just that one protection with your money, you look at permanent. Permanent, you can save some of that money, right? You have value building in that permanent policy, cash value. You can invest it. So it keeps up with inflation. It grows tax deferred, tax efficient. If you pass away, there's a life insurance benefit. You can also use that money. You can loan yourself that money, or you can surrender the policy and take that money out. So it's a savings vehicle. So let's look at that. You can invest it, so you can take advantage of the markets. Gross tax deferred, tax efficient. Life insurance, and you can also use it as a savings vehicle. 4 things versus 1 thing with term insurance. Pretty cool when you start to look at them in that type of context, in those terms. What's working against you? Inflation. Inflation's typically 2.5–3%. Healthcare inflation, and this is why retirees inflation is so much higher. Healthcare inflation is 5.1%. Wow. Taxes, we have to pay taxes in retirement, and unfortunately, a good chunk of your money is going to be paid. You're going to have to pay taxes on. We have expenses, high withdrawal rates, right? I said the 4–6% is the safe zone, is what people have said is the safe zone. Investment losses, longevity risk, living too long. My grandmother lived to 98 and her sister lived to 100. Okay. They were not living on their savings anymore. That was gone years before. Market volatility, right? Exactly what we're going through. Long-term care costs and required minimum distributions. The IRS, it's now at 72, forces you to take money out of your retirement accounts because they want their tax money. Okay. So these are different things that are working against you. If your expenses are too high, you can blow through your money. That means you're going to have high withdrawal rates, which means you're going to pay higher in taxes. Okay, it's going to hurt you more if you have investment losses and market volatility. Long-term care costs, that goes right hand in hand with the expenses. In New Jersey, where I am, a nursing home can cost you $10,000 to $50,000 a month. A month. So high expenses, high withdrawal rates, hurt your longevity risk because you can blow through your money very quickly. Okay. We require minimum distributions. If you don't properly plan for these, again, you're going to be paying higher in taxes. How do we manage these risks? Well, there's tax planning for retirement income, making sure that all your retirement income isn't coming from a retirement account and you're going to pay taxes on it. So as people come closer to retirement, we add in a non-retirement investment account, a bucket that you pay taxes on each year, so that in retirement, not all your money is going to be taxed then. So we do a combination, but we're very strategic with it. We work with an account. We keep you in a lower income tax bracket. Tax planning for pre-retirement income savings needs. Exactly what I just said. So we have tax planning leading up to retirement, and then we have tax planning once you are in retirement. Long-term care strategizing. How do we protect against that risk? How do we manage? How are we going to fund that risk? And it goes beyond just the funding of it and protecting your assets, your investments. It also goes down to setting up where you're going to be, what's going to be the best nursing home for you, who's going to help transfer you there, who's going to pay your bills, who's going to take care of your house. Maybe you want to sell it, rent it out. Who's going to take care of moving your belongings? There are a lot of different pieces that traditional financial advisors don't talk about. But if you don't plan for these things, if you're not proactive, that burden just gets passed to your children, a loved one. Maybe you don't have children. Then who's making those big decisions for you? The more you can have planned ahead of time, be proactive in that plan. And the more you can have professionals on hand, right, your team of rosters, to fill in those gaps. Maybe it's somebody to pay your bills. Maybe it's an organizer to take care of your house and moving things and knowing what things you prioritize. A realtor. So many different professionals are there to help with these things. Okay. Longevity planning. There are things like annuities, different products that can help with longevity planning. Use of insurance products. So when we look at risks and the things that are working against us in our plan, what we're going through are different ways to manage those risks okay, with the right type of investments, tax planning. Protect against those risks with different types of insurance products, or neutralize them completely, right? Having another variable that will neutralize it, okay? Withdrawal strategies, market volatility strategies, stabilize your income and your investments. You know, everyone always tells me they're after financial freedom, financial independence. But the real piece of it is the financial stability. How much more stable do you feel on steady ground? How much more secure do you feel? How much more free do you feel if you feel very grounded and secure in your plan? That's stability. So stabilizing your income so we don't have these huge fluctuations, and stabilizing our investments and we don't have these huge fluctuations is going to be key in building your retirement plan. Stability, stability, stability. I don't know how many times I can say it. It helps with the market volatility strategies. It helps with your tax planning. It helps with your withdrawal rates, longevity planning. Okay, you see how all these piggyback on stability, and that's why my Stable Money Saver is the first money system we dive into, because we want that stability first. Now let's look at what's in your control. Expenses. No matter what you think, you always have control over your expenses. Take it from Dawn, woman in my retirement club. She started tracking her expenses. Within a year, she got very good. She saw what was working in her business, she did more of it. She saw what was not working in her business, she did less of it, or completely cut it out. Cut out that expense that bleed on her time and money. And then she looked at her personal side too. She cut out the high rent. We got strategic with paying off her credit card debt. Within a year, she had about a $2,500 swing in her expenses. And what that allowed her to do was she upped her savings by 70% from the year before. All of a sudden, she had this windfall of money. She was chunking towards her goal. And this is what Dawn said to me. I had no idea the stress I was putting on myself by not saving enough for retirement until I started saving enough. And the stress of not knowing how much was enough. That's why we look at the plan holistically. Figuring out how much is enough to save, how much is enough to retire, how much is enough to spend, so you don't feel guilty every time you spend money. So tracking is such a great way. Tracking where you spend money now, and then looking at it, how am I going to spend in retirement? What's in your control? If you want to work, usually that's in your control, whether it's part-time work. I have a client, he couldn't find a job. Now he worked at Apple, now he's working at Lowe's, and he just loves being active. He loves the social aspect of it, and he likes having that extra income coming in. He doesn't need it, but he likes to have it. Or passive income from a real estate, a business ownership, selling your business down the road. Gaining clarity. So pause this, go through each of these things. What are your top spending priorities? I would say 99% of the time, travel is a big one for retirees. Travel. Maybe it's a house by the beach or on the beach. Maybe it's supporting your grandkids through college. Maybe it's having an inheritance for your children. What are your top spending priorities? And then give each of them a dollar amount. That helps put together the question of how much is enough. Next, identify your recurring expenses. Which expenses are going to be the same in retirement? One of our big goals in my retirement club is getting our debt paid off by retirement. Okay, having that freedom so that $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 isn't going just towards the debt. You can use that money to travel, to live on, do all these amazing things. Or having a lower mortgage payment, or timing it sometime around retirement when it'll be done. Okay. And plan the expenses. This is another great way to feel secure in your plan, is having a backup plan. What is your backup plan? A more conservative retirement plan. Maybe if Your investments aren't what they thought they would be. Maybe you didn't get to save as much as you thought, or you're in debt coming into retirement. Plan B expenses. Can we downsize, move to a cheaper state? Maybe we travel a little less frequently. We do a big trip every few years instead of every year. What are ways that you can still retire and feel fulfilled, but it not cost so much money? What are your plan B expenses? So make sure you pause this, go through these questions, write them down. Understanding the math. We always do the money math. The money math never lies. So let's take a look about inflation. How does inflation affect your income? So let's say the bank is paying you 1%. Inflation's 3%. Your overall return is a negative 2%. That's what I was saying. Money in the bank account can work against you. Again, above and beyond the emergency fund. Your investments earn 5%. Inflation's 3%. Your overall return is 2%. We don't notice inflation as much in the beginning of retirement, but trust me, years, 20 years in, 30 years in, 40 years in, you really start to see the difference. That's when we see our retirees taking a lot more money out, especially if they've been living on a fixed pension the entire time. They start to see, wow, it's not stretching as far as it used to. So they're taking more money out. Here's another one. Let's say you earn 5% on your assets and you withdraw 5%. Well, you break even. This is another piece when people call me up and say, why isn't my money moving? Well, you're withdrawing a very high percentage rate, higher than what you were able to earn on your money. So we want to look at both of those and always keep that in context. If you're withdrawing money, it's not going to grow like it used to when you were saving money, you were adding money to it. What if you earn 7% on your assets, you withdraw 5%, well then you're in the plus, positive, you're plus 2%. If you earn 3% of your assets, you withdraw 5%, you earn a negative 2%. This is why I talk about stability. The more stable we can get your investments, the more stable we can get your withdrawals, the more predictable it's going to be, the better way to project out over your retirement, but also the steadier you're going to feel, the more grounded you're going to feel. How do taxes affect your income? So we have to look, especially when we're taking money out of a traditional 401k or IRA. If you withdraw $3,000 per month and $1,200 is being withheld for taxes, let's say your account size is $600,000, you are withdrawing a net amount of $36,000 or 6%. You are withdrawing a gross amount though of 8.4%. But if you withhold for taxes, you don't really see that money. It's like your paycheck. So you forget that you're actually taking out more money than hitting your bank account. Again, great way to keep everything in context and those self-awareness. What's really going on? How much am I really taking out? How much of a strain or burden am I putting on my investments, my account size? So we're going to dive into here to help you figure out which path to go. What are your investment priorities? Are you a risk avoider, a risk taker, or a risk manager? There are really three different ways you can be with your risk. A risk avoider, you should go for the guarantees. Build multiple income streams. Stable investments. Don't go for those high-flying new stocks. Annuities have guarantees. Pensions, Social Securities. You're going to be looking at more income-driven types of products. Meet Hoarder Hannah. So I have different investment personalities. Hoarder Hannah loves hoarding money in the bank. Loves it. It's like a squirrel. Putting money here, putting money there, at 5 different bank accounts, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank account, $1 million in the bank account. It's really security versus insanity, right? One extreme. Yes, having money in the bank, and I like having 1 year money in the bank, so that you know your money that you're living off of that year isn't tied up to crazy stock markets volatility. But again, we want how to best utilize cash and cash reserves. So above that 1 year, that's when we need to start looking at what are better ways to use this money that we can be tax efficient, that we can get it growing, that we can use it maybe now and in retirement if we need to. Okay, just like that long-term care example, that we took extra money in the bank and we used it to find a vehicle that covered 5 different purposes in our plan. Okay. Quarter-handed, she feels that having money under the mattress is going to give her that security. But what she forgets or what doesn't think about is it's slowly depreciating, right? Because it's not keeping up with inflation. So finding that balance and understanding it is going to give you the security. I'm not saying just trust any advisor with the recommendations. I'm saying get educated, understand it. What is the purpose of this investment in my plan? Ask your advisor those questions. That's going to make you feel secure. You don't have to read every possible book on it. You just have to get an overall understanding. Why did we choose this X over Y over Z, right? Because there's so many different types of ways to use your money. Why did we go with this one? It will really, really help you. How about oblivious Oscar? So oblivious Oscar, too scared to look. I get this with some people, all of a sudden they ghost me because they just lost their job. They're in credit card debt. They're about to get divorced. They hide when times get tough. And sometimes we think viewing, let's say, that credit card debt is more painful than ignoring it. But will that credit card debt go away? No, it's not. You'll stay busy to distract yourself from the real issues. And I've done this. And I have a woman, Diane, and every time she gets into credit card debt, she ghosts me. We do all this work to get her out of debt, to stay out of debt, and then all of a sudden she goes on a spending binge. And I've said to her, what happens when you do this in retirement and you don't have that extra income to pay off that debt? We need to get it in check now. Because you think about this. You have money saved up into account. She had about $500,000 saved up. She wanted to pay off her debt. I said, what happens if you don't do something about this debt? Right? That $30,000 is going to go to $90,000 real quick with those high interest rates. And then we have to take out probably $150,000 from her account that's going towards the credit card companies. And I said, what would you want to do with this money? She goes, I really want to help out my daughters. Well, I said, that's $160,000 that's not going to your daughters, it's going to the credit card companies. And at that moment, she realized she needed to make a change because that's not what she wanted. That was not her intentions. She wanted to be able to give herself an independent retirement, but also have money to give to her daughters. So why are we distracting ourselves? When you feel the need to retreat, to hide, to become oblivious Oscar, that's the exact moment to reach out and find help, because it's not going to get better by avoiding it. It's only going to get worse. And usually when you meet with somebody, an advisor, professional, an expert, they're going to see so many more options than you've ever thought possible. So it usually isn't as bad as you think it is going into it. How about the risk manager? Let's do the balancing act. Building multiple streams of income is great. Having different buckets for your investment. So you have 1 to 3 year money that's maybe it's not invested or it's very conservatively invested so that you know you can depend on that money. And then we go out 3 to 10 year money. It might be a little bit more aggressive, but still very conservative. And then 10 plus year money would be, out of all the buckets, the most aggressive, but still doesn't have to be that aggressive. But then you know if you do have losses in there, you have plenty of time to make up for it to stay invested. A big piece is managing your money managers, right? Being the coach, the quarterback, making sure that your money is being very efficiently managed. It's being diversified among a lot of different things. Sometimes people think having accounts at 3 different places, the Vanguard, Schwab, Fidelity, means they're diversified. But when you dig in deep, and this is something we do with the retirement assessment, we look at actually you're invested about 90% in the same stocks. So you're not diversified at all. And that happens with me with Do-It-Yourself Dominic. So let's go meet Dominic. So Do-It-Yourself Dominic always thinks they can do better themselves. Will over-research a topic to death. Always looking for a second opinion. But with their ego, they're a little scared to hear the truth. So they'll ask a lot of questions, but they won't be very vulnerable and open about what they are actually doing with their money. So it's very hard to actually give good quality advice when all you're doing is asking questions. We need to dig in deep to see what's gotten you to the place that you're at now. Maybe you've been doing some really good things, and maybe there's some things that we can change up a little bit to optimize things, doing a little bit better. I was just thinking of somebody, her name is Janet, and she was doing pretty good on her own, but she wasn't being very efficient. So she was paying more in credit card interest rates. She was paying more in taxes because where she was taking her savings, while she was saving the money, it wasn't really making sense in her overall plan because she was just looking at one variable instead of looking at inflation, taxes, credit card, interest rates, all these different pieces. So she got herself halfway. By partnering with me, we were able to get her even farther because we were optimizing every dollar that was coming into her world. So again, you might not be doing bad things. We just might be able to enhance what you currently are doing. Wouldn't that be great? Because when you do that, you don't have to work as hard. You don't have to save as much. That's the piece. Or are you a risk taker? You love chasing the latest hot stock. You can diversify within risky assets. So I have some clients, they love stocks, that's all they want. And I explain to them, well, we can diversify within strategies of stocks. Always having an exit strategy for retirement. So what is a way that, like this man, you're not going to chop off the only limb that you are standing on? Different buckets for income planning. So knowing that the riskiest assets you're not going to use for your income, that's to grow your money for 20 plus years. And then we have 2 different characters. We have Amy and Erwin. So let's meet aggressive Amy. Aggressive Amy is like these women fighting. There was never enough risk. Always looking for the next hot stock. But do not ask me about the losers. Amy's terrified she'll actually have to save more money than win big on one stock. Or she's trying to make up for lack of time because she didn't save in the beginning of her career. Now the pressure's on and she's saying, I need to take on as much risk as possible. Usually doesn't work out for them. Again, with all these, it's good to have some aggressive Amy in you, but finding that balance of what's going to teeter you too far one way. And a big piece when we talk about the losers is admitting you're wrong fast. That's one of the number 1 keys to Wall Street. If you get it wrong, you admit it and you make a change fast. Okay. And then irrational Erwin. Never enough risk when markets are up. Always too much risk when the markets are down. So, as I say, emotions always get in the way of progress. You're ecstatic, you're angry, and now you're just crying your eyes out sad. And we see a lot of Erwins out there. You're scared that you're going to miss the ups. You're fearful that you're going to be part of the losses. Okay? You have too much when the markets are going down. You have too little when the markets are going up. You are constantly flip-flopping in and out of the markets, and that usually gets you nowhere. There was a Morningstar study done, and it said that investors who work with a planner and are active in their overall retirement plan, their overall financial plan, earn 4.5% more a year on their money. Why? Because they're able to make logical, long-term decisions in the face of fear. It's the emotions. We're always going to have emotions. We can't be completely numb when it comes to our money. That's our baby. That's our nest egg. They keep us in check, but it's being logical in the face of those emotions. Okay, being logical. That's when you have somebody, a mentor, a planner, an advisor, to help you navigate through those emotions, to make sure that you are making rational decisions despite how you're feeling. So risk, different forms of investments. Identify areas of risk within current investments, enhance with more efficient investments. Different forms of income now. Happy retirees have 3 to 4 sources of income. Why? Because it makes them feel secure. Think about that. If you're leaning on one income source, what happens if that one income source goes down, or it ends, or fluctuates nonstop? You're not going to feel very steady or stable. Building out multiple income sources is going to be huge for a happy retiree mindset. We're going to end here. Your next questions. Again, I want you to pause this and reflect on these 4 questions because they are going to be huge in building your plan. How will you feel secure in retirement? What has to happen to feel secure? What needs to be done to feel secure? Who can help? So maybe what has to happen to feel secure is knowing what your magic number is. How much savings do you need to be able to retire? Maybe what needs to be done is to build out a plan. Maybe it's to have a professional's opinion of whether you can retire or not. Or maybe to have a second opinion on that. How will you feel secure in retirement? Is it having a backup plan? Is it knowing your debt's going to be paid off? Is it just knowing that you are actively taking steps to feel secure? Like my club member, Dawn, who was tracking her money, that made her feel secure. Was upping her savings rate every year by 70%. That made her feel secure. Knowing her magic number, the number she needs to hit to retire, that made her feel secure. Who can help? Is it me? Is it your current advisor? Is it a money coach, a business coach? Who can help you? And make sure you start to build your roster, right? We can have an accountant. Right now, our Pink Fix team consists of me, an accountant, a mental health coach, mental organizer. We have an estate attorney, and we also have a mortgage broker, and then me. There's 5 women here to help on our Pink Fix team. Who can help you? So when people work with me, they not only get me, but they get 5 other professionals there ready to jump in, ready to be there to support them, educate them, help them navigate this mystical world of retirement that has so many moving pieces to it constantly, and it's always changing. And that's part of that Morningstar study. Actively being in your plan, because taxes change, estate laws change, markets change, and you change. Your priorities change. Your expenses change. Your income changes. Your relationship status changes. So making sure that when those changes happen, we're proactive in them. So here's my special gift. You probably have seen this. There's a link with this in this email for my special gift. So again, every woman that comes into my world, we do the retirement assessment. But this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to give you 45 minutes one-on-one scheduled on your time to do your very own retirement assessment. You'll walk away with your score and knowing exactly what areas to focus on. So as we go through the assessment, anything that you don't score great on, we have notes, we have your call to actions, you'll know exactly what to do. We're going to identify any gaps in your plan. We're also going to try to enhance anything that you're doing really well. You're going to learn how to put all these pieces together. So this is another example of what helps my women feel secure. Knowing we've gone through a thorough assessment, they know exactly where to focus, so it saves them time and money and energy in the end, so they don't have to work twice as hard, 3 times, 4 times as hard. They have my professional takeaways from it. We also build their roster, their team. So maybe you're lacking the estate documents. We know exactly who to call, what to do for that. Maybe you're not being as tax efficient as possible. It'll be a meeting with me and an accountant, or maybe your advisor and accountant. So we start to build out your roster, okay? We put all the pieces together. So you have a very secure, comprehensive, holistic plan to lean on and to navigate through as you're working, and then once you transition into your retirement, or in my world, what we call refinement. So the cost is usually $300, but with the link, it's only $129. So I hope you take advantage of this. Again, it's one of the best things you can do to feel secure in your own retirement. Thanks for joining me for this retirement curriculum. I hope it's been helpful for you. Again, I'm here to help. Click on the link for your own retirement assessment so that you can put all the pieces together and feel very grounded and secure as you go into your retirement. Thanks for watching.